Hello, everybody. I hope you're doing fantastically well. We are live. Keep getting your comments in. I think that it should be all good now. So, keep getting your comments in. Keep liking the video as well, guys. But hopefully this live stuff is working now. I'm just going to check on Facebook and wait for a few of you to get in. Yeah, it looks perfect. I'm not saying I look perfect, but it looks perfect, the stream. Anyway, let's get into it, shall we? Goodness me. Newcastle United 1, Leeds United 1. Okay, let's take everything into consideration. Is it a horrendous result? Of course it's not. Did we lose the game? We didn't, which is all great and positive stuff, which is, it's fantastic. The result doesn't do either club's any help whatsoever, and as I say, it's not a defeat, which is positive. So Leeds United now have sort of 5 results. 3 against the top 4, and we have 2 against the bottom 3 now, Newcastle and Burnley, where we haven't got a victory. So all that needs to be taken into consideration, of course. The formation, and guys, I'm going to get into your comments to keep getting them in. I'm just going to get my overall thoughts on the game out there straight away. The formation, obviously, Leeds started with the back 4. Dallas was the right side. On my pre-match. Sorry, I did call out that I would have liked Jamie Shackleton there. The cohesive pattern between him and Rafinha we've seen this season when Shackleton has come on, it's been really nice. It's been a really good partnership. There's a lot of energy there from Shackleton. I'll get on to Stuart Dallas in a little bit. We'll talk about him later on in the show. But as I say, keep getting your comments in. Nicholas is saying, good morning, Connor. I thought Rodrigo was much improved last night. We'll get on to that. James Meredith, morning, Connor. Hello, James Doe, Bielsa out. James, come on. Get your coffee, mate. Don't be silly. But yeah, no, I would have liked to have seen Shackleton right back 100%. As I said, the energy provided by him consistently next to Rafinha when he's been coming into the phases of play and obviously coming onto the pitch, he's been excellent, I thought. Listen, Leeds started well. Leeds started well like we did at St James's Park last time. This is exactly how it started at St James's Park last time. They couldn't really deal with us. Obviously, the crowd wasn't there last time, which was a massive beneficiary to Leeds United. You could tell the crowd made a huge impact last night for me at St James's Park. But the lights were out, guys. The lights were out. Bruce out, Bruce out, Bruce out, Bruce out. Leeds scored a goal. You're thinking toxicity hit its peak. Now, what do Leeds United need to do? Stamp on the neck of Newcastle. 2, 3, 4. And did we create the attacking phases of play? Of course we did. Leeds were absolutely fantastic in terms of creating chances. And you were thinking, this is Leeds of yesteryear, I shall say, like last season. And you thought to yourself, you're thinking to yourself, here we go. Here we go with Leeds United. We're back to where we were. We're showing a little bit of vigour, a little bit of last season, which we haven't seen this year. What was I talking about in my pre-match? All about the performance. Leeds were showing it. It was great in those first sort of 10, 15 minutes. That died off pretty instantaneously after the goal was scored. A lovely floated ball in by Rafinha, a cracking dummy by Rodrigo, 1-0 Leeds United. You're thinking to yourself, with everything encompassed, let's, as I said earlier on, stamp on the neck, get 2, 3, 4 even goals, because Newcastle were there for the taking. Every single Newcastle fan I've spoken to, I've got a lot of good mates who are Newcastle fans who were coming out and saying that they're an awful side. They expect Leeds to absolutely drub them. We had the opportunity to do that. We didn't. Leeds lost masses of momentum when we'd scored the goal, which is what I called in my pre-match. I said, if we score the first goal, we score the first goal early, Leeds will go on to win the game. If we then press the action, if we then really put it to Newcastle, get a second. And where did this moment turn? The Dan James penalty, which staggering, absolutely staggering how that was not a penalty. And I don't understand it, guys. I don't understand how in a sane world that is not a penalty. It frustrated me that no Leeds player appeals, because you get any other side in this division, they're all going mental. But it's the honesty of this Leeds United side. We just get on and keep playing, and that's great. But you almost wish some of the Leeds players would have got up and around the referee. Are we going to VAR for that? I've never seen a more stonewall penalty than that. That hasn't been given. Dan James gets up, starts running around like a Duracell bunny, which is fantastic to see. But Leeds just don't have that edge to them where they're going to go up to the referee and get in, not get in his face as such, but at least say to him, come on, ref, is there not going to be a VAR decision here? VAR doesn't even look at it. There's 2 separate issues there. The fact that Leeds aren't going in and around the ref and saying, why is that not a penalty? And the second issue is, why are VAR not looking at it? The most blatant penalty you'll see this season, which is, it's so painful, you know, so painful. The Stroud decision not been overturned, and now this, it is just, you know, when it rains, it pours, and we're going to try to come on to some positives. We are, and we've started the video positively in terms of, you know, we didn't lose the game. We didn't lose the game. As I said, it didn't do anyone any favours, that result, but that when it rains, it really does pour, and we'll get onto the injuries in just a little while. But I think I've just seen it on one of the comments there. Overall, you're looking at poor finishing. Rodrigo with a great chance puts it wide. Obviously, Calvin Phillips, I believe it might have been the second half. Cracking chance. He's got to hit the target. Hits it wide. Few shots over the bar. Tame efforts from Matthias Klick into the keeper's mid-drift where Darlow didn't even have to move. And it's that, how I described it last night to my dad when I was watching the game is, attack is the best form of defense, which I sort of tried to go on in my in my sort of pre-match, and that is the Leeds United way. It's not about defending; it's about attacking and outscoring the opposition. You know, Leeds have lost that ruthlessness for me. We've really lost that ruthlessness this season, and I think that covered our defensive woes last season. You know, yeah, don't get me wrong, we showed up towards the back end of last season. I don't think we'll do that this season, because I think we're going to continue this style of play, as Bielsa has reiterated in his post-match of Newcastle. But I think a lot of it is Leeds not being ruthless in front of goal, which I think Leeds United last season in that Newcastle game scored 4 goals. I genuinely do, because I think Newcastle this season, when we've just played them right now, were poorer than when we played them last season. Towards the back end of last season. I thought they had more players available. I thought they looked better. And I thought this game, when we've just played them now, they had one outlet, one game plan, sit back and pass to St. Maximin. So yeah, listen, it's not ideal, but the first half, as I say, was really encouraging. Incisive play, very good for about 20 minutes. Leeds step off. They sit back, and as I said, this is what I spoke about in my pre-match, and it's exactly what we did last time at St James's Park. If you remember, Leeds scored the first goal. I believe it was Rafinha again, and we sat back. We let Newcastle build momentum, and this is a huge problem with where we are at this moment in time. We can't seem to press the action. As I said, the crowd was toxic, and then it sort of turned, and Newcastle started getting on top. The second half, we started with a little bit of vigour, first 6, 7, 8 minutes. But then Newcastle, for me, with a better team throughout in the second half. A lot of you guys might disagree. You might not like that. There's a lot of people saying we battered Newcastle in terms of chance creation. That's not true. And it's backed up by if you look at the shots on goal, the shots on target, the XG, which was 1.56 to Newcastle and 1.62 to Leeds. XG, which is expected goals. So the percentage of the higher percentage of chance creation into goal. Conversion, so it wasn't a cutthroat game where Leeds were the better side. It's not true. Leeds had periods and Newcastle had periods, and for me, I thought Newcastle were the better team in the second half. St. Maximin started getting more of the ball. Actually, we'll get onto the individual players in a little bit. But as I said, what frustrated me is they didn't have a game plan. They didn't have a style. There was no philosophy. There was no way of playing. It was sit back, kick the ball long, and get it to St. Maximin, and then he can create space. I mean, he's a fantastic player. He's a wonderful player. He just causes absolute nightmares, whatever he does. And you can't legislate for someone like that. In a weird sort of way, I know sort of KP was pressing on Joe Willett, but what I would have liked to have seen is just KP to follow him everywhere. And maybe that changes the system. Maybe that means certain players have to move in different directions and certain players have to man mark in a different way. But if Calvin Phillips, who's the best defender, in my opinion, on our team, was to just follow St. Maximin wherever he went, it might take away a little bit from our midfield, but it would nullify the threat, the only threat in that Newcastle side. We forget they haven't got Callum Wilson. We forget they haven't maybe got a John Joe Shelby to be pinging the balls in the channels because they're injured. We forget Newcastle had injuries and players out as well. And I'd have liked to have seen that, just Calvin following him round, and that's a point my old man made last night actually. As I said, their outlook was one player. Sorry, I've just got down here. I'm convinced that we battered them last year. A few points as well that I want to raise as well, just in terms of Newcastle as a whole. Their relegation fodder. And they 100% are, and I do look at it and think to myself, are we going to come up against the side that bad? With the crowd completely against the manager and the owner again, obviously we're going to come up against them at Ellen Road, but when we have opportunities like that, Leeds have to take them. Leeds have to take them. And there was such a period in that first 15, 20 minutes where Leeds really could have stamped their authority, and we didn't. Another point that was made last night, Matt Ritchie, he's on a yellow card from 15 minutes in. He's up against Rafinha. Jamal Lewis was getting ready to come on. Why are we not? Why are we not being authoritative in that instance? Why are we not absolutely playing on Rafinha's side? Why are we not overloading on that side and getting Matt Ritchie another card? They kept him on. And then Matt Ritchie, you see later on in the half, is causing dramas down that side in an attacking sense. And I just felt that was a massive opportunity, a huge opportunity. You've got Matt Ritchie inside 10, 15 minutes struggling with Rafinha, and he's on a yellow card. And Leeds don't press the action. I thought in terms of positive, we're gonna get onto that in a little bit. We're gonna get onto some of the individual performances that Leeds had. Please keep getting your comments in, guys. I'm gonna read them out. One thing I did notice was a lot of people are sounding out the midfield, and I thought Click came in, and what Click does naturally as a number 8 is he veers over to either side, and he's fantastic in that respect because he gives Leeds options on the right and on the left. He veers over, he helps Leeds produce the patterns, the sequences, the sort of trios between Firpo, Click, and let's say a normal time, a Jack Harrison, but a Dan James, and that trio works really well because it overloads Leeds on either side, and Click's fantastic in that respect. I thought he was definitely one of the encouraging factors. We'll get on to Rodrigo in just a little bit, but what I want to touch on is just sometimes when Alan Saint-Maximin did have the ball, Leeds just stand off him, and the central space, you'll have seen it multiple times yesterday where he's just going across the edge of the box. Alan Saint-Maximin, tackle going in, tackle coming in, tackle going in. He cuts it back every single time. There's absolutely yards of space. And I was screaming at my TV because sometimes you would see a Rodrigo and a Click just sort of stood on the edge of the box, not making any sort of sudden movements to go close the ball down. They were more bothered about their man. But sometimes you've just got to make that action to go and block the ball. And there was so many times in that second half where Joe Willett, Matty Longstaff have got so much time on the edge of the box to line one up and shoot. You know, Leeds sort of just standing in a wall and not going and pressing the action, as I keep saying. But yeah, I think it just highlights, doesn't it, the midfield and Leeds going and getting a midfielder and it being sort of a massive problem, really. But let's get into the specifics, the specific players. And I know you guys are talking individually about everybody. Illan Meslier, once again, I think he's probably our player of the season so far, and that says quite a lot about Leeds at this moment in time. I think Illan was superb again. As I say, people continuously saying that Leeds deserved to win in that game. Illan I thought he made some very, very critical saves in that second half. You know, some very, very decent saves, and I thought his standards were upheld again. I thought he was fantastic. Stuart, listen, we're not going to go into his personal issues at this moment in time. We know he was out for Northern Ireland for 3 matches, and I hope everything's all right for Stuart. You know, he's a wonderful man, but I think he's really, really struggling this season, and that's why I called before the game for Shackleton to start that, you know, to have that cohesive pattern with Rafinha. But I think Dallas is really, really struggling at this moment in time. He looks slow, he looks lethargic, and you know, we're talking about Joe Linton, who isn't even playing in his recognised position as a centre forward. He's playing on the wing, which is another tactical blunder if you're Steve Bruce. But he's playing on the wing, and I thought he absolutely ran Dallas ragged yesterday. He ran him ragged. And this is Joe Linton, guys, as I keep saying, the 40 million flop, one of the worst additions the Premier League has ever seen for the money spent and the return in terms of goals and assists and just general play. And I thought he ran Dallas ragged, cutting inside, outside, winning headers against him. You know, just it was too easy, way too easy on that side. So yeah, I thought Stu really struggled, and Luke at the back. Ayling obviously was brought off injured towards the end of the game. I thought Ayling and Cooper I thought Ayling struggled a little bit. I thought Cooper, and a lot of you guys are going to hate this because I know there's a lot of Cooper haters amongst the Leeds ranks. I think he's had a poor start to the season, Liam. But but I actually thought he was all right yesterday. You look at his numbers, his duels won, his defensive actions. If you break all the stats down, Cooper did all right. There was a couple of times where it was last ditch, and I felt that was very Leeds yesterday. It was last ditch. When St. Maximan was on the edge of the box, there'd be 3 Leeds players back, and there'd have to be a lunge from Liam Cooper. And luckily for Leeds United, the lunge from Liam Cooper came off 2 or 3 times. I thought he won his individual battles okay yesterday, and I thought Liam was all right. Junior Firpo, okay. The jury's still out for me on Junior. I've seen a lot of people saying that they were happy with his performance. As I say, football's subjective. I respect everybody's opinion in the chat. I come on here to give my opinion. The jury's still out on him for me massively. I don't think he's shown a lot in these first 5 games. Look, I understand he's just starting. I understand that. That's a caveat. He's just starting this his football at Leeds. He's had COVID as well. Listen, my entire family's had COVID, including myself. I know how damaging it can be. So that's a complete caveat. But overall, performance-wise, when he's been on the pitch, I think he looks a little bit panicky in possession. I think he's wanting to get rid of the ball really, really quickly. I think some of his passing can be off. The 1-touch, 2-touch doesn't seem to be suiting his game state at this moment in time. He should have been sent off yesterday as well. He's on a yellow card and he hauls Matt Ritchie down. He drags him down like that by his stomach. That's a red card. It's 2 yellows. It's a red. And earlier on as well in the first half, it could have been another yellow for him. Mike Dean was his best friend yesterday. Wasn't Leeds' best friend for the Dan James decision. But listen, I know a lot of you guys thought Firpo was great. Which is fine. That's your opinion. As I said, I completely respect it. But as I said in my pre-match, I wanted overloads. I wanted overlaps, underlaps, because I felt that would completely disrupt the Newcastle back line. You know, you're looking at a back 5, a back 6, a back 7 when you include the defence in the midfield. The overlaps just simply need to happen. And once again, you'd have Dan James, you'd have even, Dan James consistently on the edge of the box, and you just would not see Firpo giving anything on those overlaps or underlaps. And we weren't. I don't know whether or not it's a nervousness. It's difficult for me to say. I don't know if it's a nervousness. He's just come in the system, but it's very difficult, guys, to say he'll learn the system. He'll get into the system. He needs to learn the system now. He needs to be at that level right now, because Leeds have got massive games coming up. December is horrendous. December's horrendous, but in the meantime, right now, with a block of games which are huge, these are the games that we, quote unquote, should be winning. Okay, so Firpo needs to be ready right now. As I say, the COVID thing, I don't know if he's still suffering from COVID. He looks okay. He looked fit. He looked. From what we got from Bielsa's press conference, he hasn't illustrated anything of the like, and I don't think he'd be playing for Leeds if he had maybe like a long COVID. But I think at this moment in time, in terms of performances, he's not showing enough. And I think that you've seen a lot of the wingers struggling because the fullbacks are not showing enough, because it's everything for Leeds is out wide. Everything for Leeds is dynamic and fluid out wide. And I think the wingers are struggling because of the fullbacks' imprint on the game at this moment in time. A lot of people did enjoy his performance, which fair enough. But I thought Firpo was poor yesterday. Rafinha was the bright spot, wasn't he, when he was taken off? I nearly started crying. I didn't understand why he was taken off. Originally, I thought it was a tactical decision, which I couldn't understand, but it seems from multiple reports, his groin was strapped up, and we'll get onto the injuries in just a little bit, but his groin was strapped up. Bielsa said it was a hip, but I don't think hip. Bielsa does seem to get some of the injuries wrong sometimes, but it looked like a groin. His groin was strapped up. It had ice all the way around it. He started his full kit on. He was able to still talk to Crysencio Somerville as well. So hopefully it's not too bad. But yeah, Rafinha was taken off, but I thought he was the bright spot, but he massively faded in that second half. Rodrigo, better. That doesn't mean he was perfect, but he was better, as I was illustrating at the start. The defensive aspect of his game, there was still so many times where centrally Newcastle had bags of space, bags of time, especially on the edge of our box. That's not only Rodrigo, but it's Click as well. But Rodrigo, you've still seen the likes of Longstaff running off him. And listen, from an offensive point of view, as I said in my pre-match, he's going to find space between the midfield and the attack. And this is where it's going to be, I said it, it's going to be Rodrigo's perfect game if you watch the tactical breakdown, because Newcastle allow you that time and space because they're not a pressy team. So the exact same thing with Bruno Fernandes the week before for Man United. So I predicted he would have a good game. I'm going to judge Rodrigo more on the West Hams. I'm going to judge him more on the teams that are really going to press him in the action in the midfield. But I thought last night he was good going forward. Probably leads him and Meslier probably leads his best players last night. So that was a massive positive. But defensively, still there are questions that need to be asked. Mattis Klick, as I said, I thought he was decent. I thought he made a difference. He should be starting every week for me in that midfield. I think, listen, he's the only sort of thoroughbred midfielder in there that we have at this moment in time who can do it all. Defensively, I still think you've got to ask questions, but there you go. I thought Klick made a massive improvement. Dan James, thought he struggled a little bit. 100% a penalty. How that's not given a penalty, I will never know. I'll never understand it. I don't understand football. How that's not given as a penalty. But yeah, 100% that was a stonewaller. Manquillo, though, I thought he did really well against him. I don't think Dan James had a lot, and once again, he's learning the system. Of course he is, but I didn't think he had a lot in that first half, and I thought the substitution was right, to be honest. Tyler Roberts comes on. Somerville comes on as well. Let's have a chat. As I said, I think the substitution earlier on should have been Shackleton for Dallas. I think we've seen that really, really do well, especially against Everton. Shaq should have come on. Dallas should have gone off, and I feel it would have given us some real impetus going forward. But in terms of the actual substitutions that were made, Shackleton obviously came on later on. But Tyler Roberts came. We'll talk about Roberts first. Listen, God, when he's on the ball, he's very encouraging. He's got very, very nice touches in and between the lines, calms things down. And I'm not a massive like hater on him. I try to defend Roberts, aside from what some people have on here as an agenda, as Connor's pessimistic and negative all the time. I come on here and try defend Roberts in instances, but it's very, very difficult with some of his final ball decisions. His final ball is just it's absolutely horrendous. Some really nice touches, as I say, to calm the play down. He moves the ball well in terms of rotation in the midfield, sometimes has a calming head. But just some of his decisions yesterday, there was one right at the end where he cuts in, I think it was a 92nd minute, and he just left foots it to the goalkeeper. And I'm just like, I turned to my dad and I said, what has he seen there? Like, what has he seen? And just it's instances like that. It's the final ball. There was a really good passage of play where Rodrigo actually got in between the two defenders. Just needed the simple ball, and he overhits it by about 6 yards. And listen, he's been all right in these first 3 or 4 games, but what is all right? You know, what is his position? Where does he fit in this Leeds side? Is it just a state of calming us down? Is that what it is? Calming us down in instances where we're maybe a little bit erratic. If that is what Roberts does, that's fine, but he's never really going to impact the game in terms of goals. And we've seen that. It's backed up by ridiculous statistics. And I just, I always, it's the young thing, isn't it? You know, he's only young. He's 22 years of age. So of course, we try to give him a little bit of leeway, but there has to be more production on the field. There just simply has to be. And when he came on yesterday, I just didn't ever feel there was going to be any sort of impetus for him in terms of creating something. And that was validated by his sort of performance, really. As I say, calms things down, moves the ball a little bit, but anything else, you're just not really getting from him. Somerville, I thought he came on. He's only a kid, but from what I've saw in the 23s, maybe he looked a little bit nervous. He's just lightning in the 23s, and he's really direct. And we didn't see that a lot from Crescencio yesterday. But he's only a kid. I mean, if you're judging him on that, you're ridiculous. You know, you can't really do that for a child who's just come on for his first appearance away at St James's. But yeah, he came on, didn't really do much, but I thought he did as much as Dan James, which says a lot. Excuse me. Bamford did all right. He had a chance, didn't he? A big chance. And for Rodrigo, I think, put him through again, which was another really impressive one. He got it on his right foot. He's got to do better there. Simply Patrick Bamford. He's got to do better. I thought he ran the line okay. Off the ball, did well. But once again, he didn't have a lot of the ball, did he, in terms of having clear-cut chances. And I think that's what we've levelled at Bamford throughout this year. And is that his fault? No, it's because Leeds aren't conjuring as many chances. And when we are conjuring chances like yesterday, We're not ruthless enough. We're not putting them away. We're not Newcastle, as I've said. We get that penalty, which should have been given, of course, but we get that penalty. We take a chance earlier on alongside the Rafinha chat, and it's game over. It's game over. They are done. They are not coming back from that. Heads down. The crowd are booing. And I just felt we had such an opportunity last night to really stamp it in. And as I say, a lot of people who will talk about, us playing 3 of the top 4. Well, now we've played 2 of the bottom 3 and not got any results. 2 results last year that we got: 4-0 away at Burnley, 2-1 away at Newcastle. But that's my notes for the game, guys. So I'm going to get into some of your comments, the injury list as well. I know there's a lot of people who are coming on and saying, it's excuse me. It's not as bad, that result. It's not, and I agree. For me, right, the Newcastle result isn't as bad. I still think Leeds last season would have absolutely taken them apart. The result isn't that bad. What is bad is the injuries going forward and the teams that we're playing going forward, because these are critical games for Leeds United in this period. As I say, December's horrendous. So Leeds need to be picking up points quite simply right now. Okay, so now we're looking at Strauch, Koch, Llorente, Harrison, Rafinha, Forshaw again, and Luke Ayling. It's a massive, massive amount of injuries. We don't know the extent, some of them, but some of them look muscular, which is not always a good sign. Obviously we had some people hobble off the pitch yesterday. Bamford looked like he had a little bit of a niggle as well. And it's a small squad thing, isn't it? So then, yes, in isolation, the Newcastle result, I agree with all of you, isn't that bad. I still think we should have won the game. I think Newcastle are a poor side. As I said, the crowd got on top of them. We should have won the game, in my personal opinion. But for the people who were saying it's not a bad result, I agree. The problem is, we needed to win last night for me, because Newcastle are a shockingly bad team. And with a patched up Leeds side against that Newcastle side, I still think we should have won the game. Going forward, with these amount of injuries, this is what I'm a little bit worried about, because we're facing better teams than Newcastle for me. Better teams than Newcastle. Even Watford, I'd say, are a better team than Newcastle. So with all these injuries, we're now facing that. So it's the consequential, it's the long-term view of what that Newcastle result means. But overall, listen, we never know what Leeds United are going to do we? Bielsa has an edge. Bielsa always has an edge, and hopefully the injuries aren't as bad as we first thought. But guys, get all your comments in now. Get all your comments in, please. I'm going to be reading them now. The book is being shut. I hope you've agreed with a lot of what I've said. Let me know. Rafinha injured, says Bury 81, but for West Ham, by the looks of it, we look clueless without him. I'd completely agree, Bury. I think it was a real struggle without him, wasn't it? A real struggle. It's just that creativity, but the caveat has to be, Harrison wasn't playing either. The midfield looked a lot better. And West Ham's going to be a tough one. I think we're all looking at the Watford game, aren't we now? And this is what I said in my pre-match. It piles the pressure on Watford at home, because I think we all know West Ham's. Listen, I watched West Ham away in Dynamo Zagreb in the Europa League, and they were just absolutely fantastic. So it's going to be a really, really tough game with the amount of injuries that we have. Hopefully, Llorente back for next game, says Anna Millie. Yeah, hopefully. 2 average teams yesterday. Let's be honest, says Philip. I'd completely agree, Phil. We looked, it turned into a basketball game, but it suited Newcastle, because they were just counter-attacking with Alan Saint-Maximin and Almiron, really, and even Joe Linton, which I didn't expect by how bad even Newcastle would say he is as a footballer. James Meredith says it could be Somerville and Dan James on the wings next game, Connor. It could be, mate. It could. Let's have a look. Cresswell in for West Ham. Mohamed, we might not have a choice, pal. I think we literally don't have a choice. I mean, we're not even touched on the bench yesterday. Was it Gelhard, Somerville, McKinstry, McCarran? It was just kids, wasn't it? It was kids, and I don't even know what they're going to do in terms of drafting people in. If Ayling and Rafinha are injured now, I think it's just going to be the whole 23s on the bench. Roberts passes it's too obvious for opposition defences. We're playing good football but need an out-and-out striker. You look a bit like Koch. I've never had that. Normally I get Maddison or Grealish. Somerville is a beast. He has serious potential. I'd agree. Let's have a look. We're playing Fulham on Tuesday, says Tim Mason. We are, Tim. I mean, the squad for that's going to be interesting, isn't it, mate? Because obviously Bielsa doesn't naturally like playing a full squad in the cup, and I think we're a little bit delusional if we think we're now going to be able to fill a full squad against against Fulham and have a full squad in the cup run. You know, like we maybe thought at the start, and we saw that the strength of that team against Crewe. Obviously, that's not going to happen now, just with the amount of injuries Leeds have. Tishaner 85 the odds are against us, but hopefully being the underdog for West Ham could suit us, like the Leicester away game when things weren't looking good. Yeah, hopefully, mate. I agree. Cresswell is 8 foot tall. He can defend corners versus West Ham, and that's another thing, isn't it? Defending corners against West Ham. Let's hopefully be able to do that. Final third is very poor at the minute, and I think, yeah, Kieran, I agree. I think attack is the best form of defence, isn't it, for Leeds United, and that's the worry at this moment in time, because we're not ruthless or clinical enough in front of goal, and it's not masking the defence anymore. The defence are being, let's be right, shown for what it is generally this season, which isn't great, even with our full strength side, because of the way we play. The focus is on attack, not defending. We're seeing that more and more often now, because we're not being helped out by the attack and facilitated by that. But the defence have as much purpose in attack as they do in defence as well. You look at the fullbacks. The fullbacks they've got to improve, because they aid the attacking aspect of Leeds United's play. Okay, so let's leave it on that. So Giles asked me to end on a positive note. Okay, let's end on a positive note. Listen, it's not doom and gloom. Okay, we're 5 games in. The positives are that we didn't lose yesterday. We didn't lose at Burnley, which is positive. We didn't lose to Everton, who are going to be a top 6 side for me this year, which is positive. You look at Everton; they've gone on a real run in between playing Leeds United. I think they're on 10 points, Everton. So I think they've dropped points against us. That's it. So that shows some resilience. Positives again. Hopefully we'll have learnt last time out against West Ham, and hopefully the injuries aren't going to be as bad as we first thought, and hopefully we'll maybe Llorente will be back, which will be positive. There you go. I'm trying, mate. I'm trying. But listen, we'll have more stuff coming up at this moment in time. We're gonna have sort of 5 things we learned about the Newcastle game out tomorrow. I think we'll have Brownie on as an appearance as well. Guys, thank you so much for joining. Please like the video as well. If you aren't subscribed, what are you doing? I hope you've enjoyed it. I hope I've given a little bit of balance. And yeah, I hope you've enjoyed it, guys. Have a great weekend. Don't let it ruin your weekend. And as always, I'll see you in a bit. Cheers.